Welcome back to Great Day Houston. It's frustrating, it's debilitating, and society can be very unforgiving to those who live with mental illness. From anxiety to addiction, obsessive compulsive disorder, and bipolar, there are a number of emotional and psychological disorders that can severely impact a person's well-being. Mental illness does not discriminate, as we've seen with a number of celebrities. Actress Mayim Bialik battles depression, and singer Mariah Carey announced that she's been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. As we know, comedian Robin Williams, who dealt with depression and addiction, took his own life. Our guests today from the Menninger Clinic want you to know, with the right help, you can survive and thrive while living with mental illness. Our next guest is proof. You know the McIngvale family. The commercials show a family that looks happy and healthy, and today they are, but that's not the way it always was. Jim and Linda McIngvale's daughter Elizabeth started exhibiting strange behavior at around 11 years old. At one point, she became suicidal. Today, Elizabeth is a doctor helping others to manage their mental illness. I sat down with her and her dad, Mattress Mac, to talk about how the Menninger Clinic is literally saving lives, including hers. I remember when I came to your house almost 20 years ago now, and we looked at how you remodeled it, and your bathroom was so unique. It was way before stainless steel was in, and we just thought you had great, cool taste. There's a reason why you chose a stainless steel bathroom.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's reasons. We chose a lot of things in the remodel. That was right in the middle and in the high point, for sure, of my mental illness.
Why did you choose it? What was going through your mind?
For some reason, most of my choices tended to be, how could I function better, right? Yeah. So we tend to give in a little bit maybe to my illness. Back then we didn't know what to do. We didn't have any other options. And so a lot of it was just about survival and functioning and how can we make this work.
Yeah, because I remember your mom making the point, and she said she could clean it. You could put Clorox on it. It wasn't like tile that it could grab germs, and you became obsessive about it. At what point, Mac, did you realize that something was a little different, a little off?
Well, you know, Liz was always a competitive gymnast, so she was very thin, and then she lost about 15 or 20 pounds on top of that. And Linda told me one night there was something wrong with her, and she was afraid to go back to Westfield High School and doing all these rituals and compulsions. So it was kind of like at that point we knew that she had obsessive compulsive disorder. We started searching for hope and for people that could help her.
Yeah, and Liz, you know, oftentimes people will do things and keep silent about it. Was there like a moment for you where you went, I'm in trouble. This is not normal?
Back then I was doing things like my hands were raw and bleeding and cracked from the amount of washing, and I would tell my parents that I had an allergic reaction to the soap, and so they'd get rid of all the soaps at their businesses and at our home, and I would do a lot of things like, oh, I must have forgotten something, or oh, I think I left my phone in the bathroom, when I was really going back to rewash or to recheck. And yeah, you make up lies and excuses and people don't really notice it, but there comes a point where you can't hide it anymore. And for me, that was actually in the 7th grade. I went to summer camp, this kind of team building camp experience they had, and I had to go for a week. And when I came back, my mom describes the moment I walked off that bus being the second she knew we have to do something.
You were afraid that she would kill herself. It was just that excruciating.
Yeah, you know, Linda lived with Liz upstairs for a couple of years, and she would scream every night, God, what did I do to deserve this? I wish I was dead. And she would ask her sister to kill her every night. So it was brutal and gut-wrenching that's the easy way to describe it.
And when he describes it that way, it's the closest that a lot of people can get to understanding that mental illness is real, and that it's something that does take over your life. And so you heard that word Menninger, you were willing to go away to get your daughter better.
Yeah, Menninger was kind of like the last hope. It's so frustrating, especially to Liz, you know, but when one family member has a mental illness, everybody has it. So we'd take her to doctor after doctor or doctor, her mother would, and nothing got any better, and they told us to put her in a mental institution for the rest of her life. And then we heard about Menninger through your show and other people at Texas Medical Center, and took her up there that cold, snowy February day and put her in there. It was just horrific.
You know, Liz, I oftentimes say, you don't choose your mission chooses you. Boy, was this a mission that chose you. And you're on kind of the other side of it in a sense now. You got that help, and that help was life-saving for you. What does that help look like?
You know, I think first of all, one of the things you said earlier is that mental illness is real, and I think a lot of people don't understand that mental illness is real, mental illness is debilitating, and mental illness is deadly. I got lucky that while I was debilitated, it wasn't deadly for me because I had parents and a family that really prevented that from happening.
Right.
A lot of people don't have that.
Yeah, I oftentimes say seeking a permanent solution to what could be a temporary problem.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, in mental illness, it's chronic, right? I'm going to live with this disease for the rest of my life, and it's a brain disease. It's no different than a medical disease. A lot of people, for some reason, look at a diagnosis of mental illness much different. And, you know, the thing I always tell my patients and their parents is, if your child had diabetes, would you look at that as a death sentence?
You don't say just snap out of it.
You know, yeah, you don't say snap out of it. You get them the treatment, and you learn, okay, we have to manage this forever, but we can do this. Mental illness is the same way. It's very treatable. We can learn how to live a functioning, successful life despite our diagnosis. And Menninger gave me the tools to do that. I'd be lying if I told you I don't have OCD still. You know, I have intrusive thoughts, and I still do rituals every day. And, you know, for me, I don't know that I've ever had an hour in my life that I haven't had a struggle. But I have hours in my life where I can experience joy within those hours and where I can feel productive. And, you know, you said earlier, our mission chooses us, and it couldn't be more true. You know, it doesn't mean my job's easy. I go to work, and sometimes I have cases and patients that I'm so invested in and so worried about, but the reality is that who else is going to help them if it's not me?
And for those people who don't know, you decided to become a doctor.
I did, yeah. So I ended up doing my doctorate. You know, it was against all odds. I think my parents can talk about this, and people always say, like, well, aren't you proud of your PhD? The reality for me is that I was proud of my high school diploma. And that's what life's about. It's not about having some huge success. It's about little successes every day. And when you live with a mental illness, you learn that every day I wake up and that I can shower and that I can get dressed. That's a success for me already.
And that today you can get out and help someone else with firsthand knowledge of what they're talking about.
Exactly, yeah. Lived experience, knowledge, and the professional background, it's pretty incredible. I'm pretty lucky to be where I am, and I feel 100%. You know, God, we don't get to choose what we're going to do in our life. It's chosen for us. It's just up to us whether or not we're willing to take it on.
Mac, there are family members out there listening right now who have no idea how to help. What do you say to them to help them to keep going and understand the importance of first acknowledgement without judgment, and then wrapping your arms around that person?
Acknowledgement without judgment is very difficult. You know, my mother had severe depression when I was growing up. When I was in high school, and my opinion was she should tough it up, you know, and I think that's
or that she just didn't care.
Yeah, you know, that she let it overcome her, and I think a lot of people look upon mental illness that way. But my advice to those parents or siblings who have a family member suffering with mental illness is there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and the treatment gets better every day, and you got to find the right person. And it's kind of like finding the right job. There's nothing wrong with having 20 jobs. You find the job you love. You go find 20 different therapists, and if they're looking for OCD therapy, you go to peaceofmind.com, which is Liz's website. She knows every good OCD practitioner in the United States, and she's also a specialist in anxiety disorder. So there's hope, but you got to keep digging, and there's great places where you can get free treatment. Am I right?
There is, yeah. You know, and I think the best thing I can give is be empathetic. Your child didn't choose this illness. Your child doesn't want this illness any more than you do. And then the second thing is you have to be their advocate. You know, the thing I always say, and the thing my sister, to this day, right, my sister will tell you in life, when she thinks about her priority of people, it's Liz, then her husband, then her family, right? But like, she knows if she has been my advocate from day one. My mom, my dad have been my advocates. You've got to find your advocate. There's someone out there. And some people have it in their parents. Some people have to find it in their church, in their support group. Search for that, because the reality is, and my sister feels this way to this day, right? You have to be a voice for the voiceless. And most of us with mental illness will go through times in our life where we can't use our voice, and someone else has to be willing to use it for us.
With that said, and beautifully said, Mac, this has got to be one of the most comfortable chairs I've ever sat on.
It is, and I got a call the other day from one of the physicians who's worked with Liz. He was very upset because her office had better furniture in it than his.
Well, now he knows where to shop, right?
That's right. I told him I could do the same thing or better for him.
And my sister designed it, so her services are available. She told every person at BCM.
And we say this jokingly, but getting help was what brings you back to doing your everyday normal life.
You know, the day I went to Menninger, it was February 5th of 2002, I truly thought that was the day my life was over. I believed what physicians had told me my whole life, which was that my parents were checking me into a mental hospital forever, and that, you know, I was a burden on them. And I really felt that way, and I accepted that, I understood that. And I sat down on a couch at the Menninger Clinic, and I sat next to this young girl named Amy, and she looked at me, and all she said was, "It's okay, I cried too." And it was her birthday 2 days ago. We talk all the time, and she's still one of my best friends because it was the first time I met somebody else who also knew what it was like to have a mental illness. And then I went into a treatment room where I had providers who actually asked me the right questions, and who for the first time when I left the meeting, I thought, they might actually be able to help me.
Yeah, you're not alone.
And I left that clinic 3 months later, 90 days after I entered, and I cried just as hard the day I left, because for the first time in my life, I could see a future again. I could imagine going back home and taking a shower and getting dressed by myself and enrolling in the high school that I had once thought I would never step foot in again. And the reality is that good treatment is the difference between somebody who is crippled by their mental illness versus someone who can live a successful life. My story shouldn't be an exception. It should be the norm.
Thank you, too, very, very much.
Thank you, Deborah. Good to see you.
Thank you for everything you do.
When we come back, there are several things that can lead to addiction: emotional trauma, self-medication to deal with depression, or simply playing with fire and getting hooked. We'll share a program to help people finally break free next.